Welcome to the very first episode of Life in Progress Podcast. Season 1, Episode 1, we made it. I'm your host, Christina, and I'm so thankful that you've tuned in. Thank you for pressing play, for choosing to be here, and for saying yes to your own growth, yes to your own becoming, and yes to showing up for your story. You know, that's what this space is all about. It's about becoming. It's about progress. It's about formation. It's about the unlearning and the unfolding. It's about the stretching, which many of us try to avoid or find uncomfortable, but actually need for the sake of growth. This isn't a podcast about perfection. It's about process. It's about embracing the journey of becoming, no longer who you used to be, but on the way to becoming everything God created you to be. This space is about the honest tension of being in progress. You see, I don't know about you, but life for me personally has rarely handed me a neat, polished storyline. Looking back and reflecting on my own journey, most of my growth has happened in the in-between spaces, those seasons where I didn't have the answers, where I felt stretched, where I wondered if I was doing enough, becoming enough, hearing God clearly enough. There have been seasons where I felt like everyone else was arriving and I was still becoming, learning, healing, rebuilding. And for a long time, I thought something was wrong with that. I thought progress was supposed to look efficient and linear, orderly, predictable, but it rarely does. And I'm so glad the Lord has been teaching me this in recent years, that progress is often messy. Progress is often slow. Progress is holy and hidden. Progress is the quiet miracle that happens where the spotlight doesn't reach. Progress is not loud, it's not flashy, and it's not glamorous. Progress whispers. It unfolds quietly. It teaches us to trust what we cannot yet see. It reveals itself over time, one healed layer, one brave choice, one surrendered moment at a time. See, God often forms us in places that feel hidden and unfinished. Why am I emphasizing this so much? Because life is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding. We are always becoming, always learning, always being shaped, and we need to deeply grasp the reality that faith is formation, leadership is formation, healing is formation, manhood is formation, womanhood is formation, discipleship is formation. God doesn't rush transformation, He invites us into it. He forms us slowly, intentionally, and intimately in progress. I love how Henry Nouwen once said, we are all in the process of becoming, a place of ongoing, gradual formation, transformation, and gentle growth. Did y'all hear that? Ongoing, gradual, gentle. 3 words that contradict almost everything that culture tells us about growth. Because culture says hurry, perform, produce, prove, arrive already. Culture says your worth is measured by how quickly you can upgrade yourself, how efficiently you can reinvent, how flawlessly you can hold it all together. But God says, let me work in you slowly. Let me form you thoroughly. Let me heal you deeply. Culture wants a finished product, but God treasures a formed person. Culture pushes us to look ahead so we can measure how far we have to go. But God invites us to look within so we can see what He's shaping right now. The world rushes, but heaven is never in a hurry, because the kind of transformation God is after is not cosmetic, it is character deep. Not surface level, but soul deep. And soul work takes time, sacred time, protected time. Soul work takes tender time. So if you feel slow, if you feel like your progress is crawling, if you feel like you're still becoming, I want to encourage you with this simple truth. You're not behind, you're being built. Progress is not proof of weakness. Progress is proof that grace is still working. And this podcast is born from that truth. And I believe we need more rooms today where process is allowed, where growth is celebrated, where vulnerability with wisdom isn't seen as a lack, but as courage. I believe we need to be in more spaces and in the company of people who don't just speak on the achievement and arrival, but the space in between, the middle, the becoming, the almost there but not yet, the unfolding chapter that no one sees. So for those listening who are building something sacred, even if it's slow, are growing spiritually, emotionally, and internally, even if no one claps for it. For those who are healing from stories they never thought they'd make it through. For those whose calling is stirring, but so is the fear. For those who feel God pulling them forward, but they're not sure they're ready. Hear me when I say this. This space is for you. You don't have to have it all figured out to be chosen. You don't have to be finished to be called. God uses people in progress. He always has. There was a time in my life where I believed that before God could use me, I needed to arrive somewhere spiritually, emotionally, in confidence, clarity, identity. But here's the truth. Some of the most impactful moments of my life have come while I was still unsure, while I was still learning, still being healed. So let me repeat that again. God uses people in progress. He always has. I think of Moses, called while uncertain. I think of Esther, called while afraid. I think of Peter, called while inconsistent. David, anointed while overlooked. God calls unfinished people on purpose. He delights in forming us as we go. Why? Because your becoming tells a truer story of His grace than your perfection ever could. See, perfection says, I did this. But progression says, He is doing this in me. C.S. Lewis once wrote, God is not merely interested in what we do, He is interested in who we are becoming. And that is the heartbeat of this space. So, if you're in the middle, if you're in the stretching, if you're in the healing, if you're in the learning, hear me out. You are not late. You are not lacking. You are being shaped. You are a life in progress. And that progress is a sacred process of becoming all that God created you to be. So here's what you can expect from this podcast. This podcast will be honest. It'll be practical. It'll be faith-based. It'll be formational. And we will talk about all things becoming versus arriving, calling and capacity, faith and identity in real time. We're going to talk about seasons of hiddenness and preparation. We're going to talk about growth that takes time. We will explore what it looks like to pursue progression in life and in faith, and dive into what the sacred work of becoming looks like. So as we begin this journey together, I want to leave you with this final thought. Nothing in your process disqualifies you. Nothing unfinished about you is a liability to God. Your becoming, your progression is holy. So keep showing up at the pace of His grace. If this episode was a blessing to you, then take a moment to share it with someone who could use this encouragement. I want to thank you so much for tuning in for the launch episode of Life in Progress podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time.